running from the rolling thunder, harder comes the rain.
Welcome to the first podcast of Deed Thieves, Stolen Deeds, Dirty Hands. I'm Maia, a member of Homeowners Grassroots Coalition, your guide through the hidden world of America's quietest crime wave, deed theft. Homes stolen with forged documents, fake notaries, the stroke of a pen, all rubber stamped by the courts. Behind every stolen deed is a trail of fraud, power, and broken systems. We're going to be following the money trail. Who's behind it? Who's benefiting? And what will it take to fight back? Let's dig in. Our guest today is Alexandra Clare. Alexandra Clare is an investigative reporter, researcher, and the acclaimed author of Illegal Foreclosure, Title Theft and Its Chain of Corruption. With a sharp eye for uncovering systemic injustice and a deep commitment to truth-telling, Clare has spent years documenting the dark underbelly of real estate fraud and title theft. Her work sheds light on how predatory practices, corrupt institutions, and legal loopholes have led to the displacement of countless homeowners. Through in-depth investigative research and accessible tools like her book, Title Theft Quick Guide of Lists, Clare empowers homeowners, legal professionals, and advocates to recognize and respond to fraudulent deed theft tactics. Her writing not only exposes abuse, but also equips readers with practical resources to fight back and seek justice. Before we bring Clare on, I'd like to read a poem from her book. Ambivalent Victor. I could not go on. An avalanche of minutes passed through blackest wood. Splintered twig mercy to the tempest whim. No foot fixed. No life in compass. I would not go on until the hand that loosed the comet on a path. Throne to spirit, spirit to heart, God spoke. Ambivalent victor you shall be. Go on. Alexandra, every time I read that, I get such chills. So welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for reading it. You read it beautifully.
So, Alex, I've read in your book that you were targeted. How did that happen?
Well, I was in a neighborhood where some Mario investors were in my town and in West Tennessee in general. They were in West Tennessee in general. When I finally got around to my investigation, it took me to 3 counties in West Tennessee. But they targeted me because they knew I was going through. People are targeted for different reasons. There's some kind of trauma in their lives. They won't be paying attention, or they get in trouble with their mortgage or whatever it is. Sometimes these people even have people embedded in nursing homes, and they read obituaries, and they're looking for people to target. And so I was targeted because I was dealing with a marriage that was falling apart. My neighbors knew this. My husband had been clean and sober for 13 years and relapsed into drugs and alcohol. And my life just began falling apart. It felt like God was taking everything away from me. And so these people targeted me for that reason. One of them was a neighbor, and under the pretense of friendship, kind of kept track in and out of my house, kept track of what was going on in my life. And that's how I was targeted.
Well, I read that you went through a divorce, lost your job, your marriage. What inner strength got you to investigate? Because many people would have just given up, wouldn't have known where to go or what to do.
Well, many people do give up because this is such a tragedy for people. It's so traumatic to lose your home, whatever the circumstances, and especially for people over, 50, because, they're at the end of their working life. It's hard to rebuild. So it's just, but for me, I just got interested in how did this happen? and I wanted to understand it. I guess that's my personality as a writer. I like research, and the words in 2012 when this happened. Actually, I was targeted in 2009, but I didn't leave the house until 2012, and the word title theft was not in anyone's vernacular. We didn't have these ads, probably for you too at the time. We didn't have these ads on the television talking about title insurance. So I didn't have a clue. I went up to the Registry of Deeds office and started doing research, downloading paper, reading it, not understanding words, having to look them up. So just because my journey was so long, I wrote this little book, which I know you've talked about, Title Theft Quick Guide of Lists. It's just a short little book that anyone can begin a title theft investigation. It tells you who the bad actors are, how to read these, how to look for the trail of documents, because people feel overwhelmed. And a lot of times people will say, well, this is so complicated and it's different for everybody. No, the same features, because these people have to have the appearance of complying within the law. So the document fraud and the paperwork that gets layered into the system has to follow the same process. And I know you've noticed that too.
Mm. Well, so you eventually went to court. How did that happen and what happened?
Well, I had a lawyer who had me in state court, and turned out he was playing two ends against the middle. Then I had another attorney, and my research took me to civil RICO, and I decided I wanted to file a civil RICO case because as I was doing this research, I was looking at other properties, and I was seeing that the same thing was happening to so many people. And I would sometimes just knock on someone's door and say, I understand you're under, that you're in trouble, and engage them in a conversation, and just the same heartbreaking stories over and over again. And so I thought, this is a big footprint. So I downloaded all the information on, there's a difference between criminal RICO and civil RICO. I downloaded all the information on civil RICO, which empowers citizens of the United States to act as prosecutors. And we can go into federal court and file a case that connects the local footprint of operations, how we were targeted by the local perpetrator nexus, compared to how we are targeted by the banks and what I call the bank theft delivery system, which is the setup of vendors that facilitate the theft. And so I filed a civil RICO case, and I never actually got before a jury. They screened it for merit, threw it out, and I appealed to the Sixth Circuit. And I've never been heard at the Sixth Circuit. My appeal questions have never been answered. They assigned my appeal to a pool of staff attorneys who wrote an order that didn't even resemble anything that I wrote. It even lied and said that I had had a jury trial at the district court. So I'm still, as far as I'm concerned, I'm stuck at the Sixth Circuit, waiting for them to and then also, this is getting off track, so you can stop me. But yeah, okay, thank you. The district court forwarded a forged document to the Sixth Circuit. They used that, the clerk's office, Deborah Hunt was running the clerk's office at that time. They used that forgery to open a second case number midstream. And what that did is it separated my filings. And in particular, it buried an assignment of errors filing, which showed all the slander and contradiction of facts and undermining of the RICO claims by the district judge or this magistrate judge who had screened the case. And that's very common. These fraudsters are so powerful, and they do not want us in courtrooms where there's a jury seated and a judge seated. They want to get us sidelined into these other kind of processes whereby we never really have due process. We may think we do, but we don't.
Right. So you are still in court, and is your house sold to somebody else?
Well, my house is long gone. The actual REO fraudsters, I name them in the book, moved into my house. And that placed this little local perpetrator group. There were a number of them that were in the same neighborhood. They all wanted to kind of be in the same area, running this scheme on a really pretty large with a pretty large footprint. And so, no, I'm not in my house. They showed up with with what turned out to be a forged judge's order of eviction that never actually was filed. After I filed my first attorney, the second attorney I had said, "Well, go up to the Somerville, Tennessee, and get that document." It didn't exist. It was nowhere on file. It was a complete forgery. These people are getting away with these thefts, and we have to change not only how we're fighting this battle, but we have to get some laws changed.
Absolutely. And so what do you hope to get from your lawsuit then? Your house is gone. I mean, I'm asking because a lot of people are going through this. They don't know what to do.
Right. Yeah. Well, I would suggest getting my little book. I deliberately made it very inexpensive. It's on Amazon. The quick book, Title Theft, Quick Guide of Lists. It tells you where to go to find the documents you need, how to build a timeline, because what people are focused on is the actual eviction. What they don't realize is that they lost the deed of trust to their home was stolen long before anyone ever showed up to evict them. So the actual theft doesn't take place when they take possession of the home. The deed of trust is the authority that gives somebody it's your mortgage, your agreement with the lender. And what these people are doing is they're interfering with the property rights. And all this, by the way, some of these laws are on the books, but I just feel that we need a law that focuses on title theft. And so title theft is not only an identity theft crime, which is a RICO predicate act, but it is also, I just lost my chain of thought. It's also I'm sorry, I can't remember what I was going to say there. And you don't have to edit that out, by the way. We'll get back to it, I'm sure.
Well, you mentioned a mortgage, but you've talked about breeder documents. That was a new term for me, but can you explain breeder documents? Because you started talking about a mortgage, but assignments and
Well, think about normal identity theft. People get control of your social security number, and they have some basic information on you, and they can apply for a passport and whatever. In a title theft context, the breeder documents are the documents that are put in place, the founding documents that separate you from your ownership rights. They put distance between your original mortgage and that you're making payments every month and the theft. And that begins with assignment of the deed of mortgage to the fraudsters. And by law, that has to be filed in the Registrar of Deeds office. However, they don't tell you who the new note owner is. Normally, the note owner has already gone to the bank, targeted your mortgage, gotten control of it in some way, and now they're going to the bank or they're going to the Register of Deeds office and filing this document, but they don't list their name. So normally you'll read MERS, MERS. I like the infection connotation there instead of the pronunciation that they like. Mortgage Electronic Registration System is the e-registry for the bank filed documents that facilitate mortgage theft and title theft. So you could think of MERS as the title theft depository for title theft. So when you see a document and the name MERS is there, and the MERS number is somewhere, has to be on those documents somewhere. You can find out if your original lender still owns your mortgage. You can go in, take that 18-digit number, go to the MERS website and find out. And if you find out that your mortgage, the person you're making payments to, no longer owns your house, or it's no longer holding the mortgage, your property's been sold. Your property has been offloaded to criminals before you even knew. So the first breeder document is the assignment of the deed of trust to the fraudsters. The second breeder document is title insurance. Title insurance allows the fraudster to take out insurance which claims that the title has a clean claim. There is a clean chain of title. There's no problem with it, that they own the title. They take out this insurance, and these insurance companies are what I call, they're bank vendors. They're approved by the banks, by the financial industry to do this work. And so what they're doing, just think about it, they're indemnifying the theft. They're saying, okay, if these people come back and get their house back, you have insurance, and we're going to take the hit. So go ahead and just do any criminal act you want. Get that house under any circumstances. We don't really care. Then the third, so once they have the title insurance, they can go to the bank and they can take out a home improvement loan on your house. JP Morgan Chase gave these criminals $100,000 of my equity during a time when I was living in my house, had no idea anything was going on. They did no due diligence. They didn't do a drive-by. They didn't call me and say, hey, are you living in your house? They just believed a certificate of abandonment that was a complete fraud. So the next breeder document is that they go into the registry of deeds or the county, and they start paying your taxes. So someone has to pay the taxes because there's an interim period between the time they have electronic control of the mortgage and the time that they're actually going to evict you from the house and steal the property. And during that interim time, they have to keep what they're doing hidden because they're layering this identity theft paperwork into the system. They're putting as much distance as possible between your original loan documents and the claims that they're making. So they have to, so they show up at the county and they pay your taxes. And that can be either by mail or whatever, but you think the taxes are paid from your escrow account and that the bank is still, whoever it is that you have your loan with is paying your taxes. No, they're not. These fraudsters are paying the taxes. That's why I say the pivotal event that people have to focus on if they're going to do this investigation and show up in court and actually get judges to pay attention is they have to identify when the property was stolen. They have to find out who the secret note holder is, note holder, note owner, whatever they want to call it. It's not MERS. It's not a law firm. It's not a lawyer. It's not some proxy identity. It's not a company that's no longer in business. You know, these papers, they layer so much document fraud into this system that and there's no due diligence, and no one is holding the banks accountable. That's why RICO is so important, because with RICO, you have to connect the local perpetrators with the national footprint. And the national footprint is the banks, the servicer, the title insurance company. These title insurance companies are horrible because they just partner with these criminals. MERS is a big player. MERS is the title theft depository for, so enterprise relationship, and I'm just going to quote what it is because if it's okay with you, because there was a case in Maine, the state of Maine, and this judge, sometimes judges can be so eloquent, and he gave a definition that's so much better than anything I could say, and this is United States versus Battle, and the judge wrote, participation in a conspiracy, because this is a conspiracy to steal your home. Participation in a conspiracy is presumed to continue until all activity related to the conspiracy is ceased. Accordingly, each defendant is presumed to be a participant for the duration of the conspiracy unless he can overcome the presumption by providing withdrawal. A conspiracy may be deemed to continue as long as its purposes neither have been abandoned nor accomplished. So that's where enterprise plus relationship, you're creating not only a theft timeline, but you're identifying the national players with the local players. And I just want to say too that most of these homes, a lot of these homes targeted for title theft, we focused on the local people that are still stealing the property. But the ultimate destination of most of these homes is that they are pooled into a security that is then bought and sold as an investment to the banks, by the banks to their investor depositors. So the circle is complete now. It's returning long-term profit to the banks that are offloading these mortgages to criminals with no due diligence.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as many have found out, those security trusts don't really mostly exist since 2007. But I want to go back to RICO because civil RICO, I spoke to an attorney yesterday and he's calling it civil conspiracy. So the civil RICO is right on. And you have done that or doing that, and you're encouraging others to do it. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's a whole new thing, I think.
Well, one reason why I'm encouraging others to do it is because federal prosecutors and state prosecutors, they watch the dockets of these courtrooms. And they're very interested in any civil RICO case that's filed. And the reason they're interested is because they may have another case that they're trying to develop, another criminal enterprise that they're trying to work on. And they watch these cases because it could relate in some way to what they're already doing. So civil RICO gets people's attention. And at the district court in Western Tennessee, United States District Court for the Western District of Tennessee, which is in Memphis, Tennessee, they labeled my case a property flip scheme, basically. The magistrate judge, she was so offended that I, filing pro se under pauper status, was bringing a civil RICO case into their courtroom, which offended them greatly, as if I have no right, no access to due diligence, and as if I'm or anybody else is stupid. I mean, anybody who has been through this is not stupid. We want to know what happened. We want to understand. It's part of our healing from this horrible traumatic experience that we've had. And we want to understand what happened. So what she did is she slandered the RICO claims. She changed dates. She altered content. And so that's why I wrote she complained that I didn't file a assignment of errors. So I promptly wrote one and sent it to the Sixth Circuit and one to the district court. But they are doing everything they can to avoid this corruption I believe, seeped into the district court. Banks, lobbyists, they want this title theft to continue, don't they?
I'm going to take a short moment to talk about Alexandra's novel, Wood's End.
The Wood's End series by Alexandra Clare. When Andrea is framed for murder, she discovers that divorce cannot sever the ties from a dangerous cult. Follow Boston police detective Jared Scheel as he sets out to solve a murder and kidnapping, only to confront a vast conspiracy competing to produce the last Antichrist of world history. Against a backdrop of drama and intrigue, the Wood's End characters come to see that demons are on their last assignments. Bible prophecy unfolds in real time, and Jesus Christ is at the door. 2 books, Wood's End, and the thrilling sequel, The Year Between the Wood. Download from Kindle, Nook, or purchase the softcover at Amazon. Also by Alexandra Clare, a work of nonfiction, discerning spirits, visionary gifts, and practice. Find it all at Amazon.com.
So we're getting close to time here. I'd like to know, Alex, what is your parting message for our audience? What might they do when they're going through this or their friends are going through it?
As a Christian, I mean, I relied a lot on my Christian friends. I learned very quickly who my friends were and who my friends were not, and I would just say, for me, I mean, I can only speak for myself, but prayer and I spent many nights crying, days crying. You know how hard this is. This is so hard. We can hardly believe this has happened to us. And then we expect the system to work for us. And then we find that because when I was doing my investigation, as I really got into it and they realized I might be a threat to the local system, the local perpetrator nexus, and the satellite kind of groups that were all fearlessly, stealing homes with no fear of anybody ever holding them accountable. My life was threatened, and one of the group even threatened to put me in jail. I was like, okay, please do that, because then I have an entree into court. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. Actually, when she threatened me, I thought that was the first time I thought there's something to know here, because she wouldn't be threatening me if there wasn't. So that was like kind of an important kind of moment for me, because I thought, what's the big deal here? I'm a threat to nobody. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I thought, how could she put me in jail? How am I the perpetrator? So I realized that she was scared. She didn't like me nosing around.
Wow. So in ending, would you say the audience needs to just be the ambivalent victor and go on?
Yes, I say ambivalent because, again, our emotions are so sometimes still raw. I don't have flashbacks anymore, but I did at one time have flashbacks, and they were painful. So I just say, you and I can both say to these people, we understand how you feel, and we love you, and we respect you for fighting this battle, because you're not alone. A lot of people are fighting this battle.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Alexandra. And we'll probably do a part 2 soon.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. That information was so informative. If you or someone you know has been affected by deed fraud, we want to hear from you. Email us at deedtheft@gmail.com. And of course, if you like the show, leave a review. And I would appreciate it if you would click the link, Buy Me a Coffee, to cover production costs. Stay alert, protect your property, and remember, not all thieves wear masks.
High, running from the rolling thunder, hard comes the rain.